Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we're going to do book one in a different type of erotica series that I haven't done before. So this is by Eve Langlais. I hope I said it right. It's a shapeshifter series, and we're going to do book one, which is called Defying Pack Law. We meet Dana. She's a shapeshifter. Shifts into a wolf. Normally, wolves are a part of packs, but she doesn't want to be a part of a pack because women are treated like pure objects. So, if you marry or if someone claims you or lay claims to you, you have to lay with his friends as well, which is wild as hell to me. But that's how it works. For every six males, there's one female. And so, because of this ratio, this is why they have that type of a law, apparently. So, she's seen what's happened when the light kind of goes out of people's eyes and from being passed around so much. And that's just not something that she wanted for herself. And so, she ran away. And she now lives outside of pack territory. She works for a lumber mill. No one knows she's a werewolf. She has security around her place. She's very careful. She's had to take out a few people that found out she was a wolf. And she's lived in quite a few places as well. Now, we don't know how long she's been gone, but we can kind of surmise it's probably been quite a bit of time has passed since she's left her original home. Dana's on her way to work at the lumber mill. She gets in, she jokes around with the guys, and she gets called into the office by her boss. And as soon as she walks, before she even gets in, she smells the wolf. And it's a young guy, and it's someone she's going to have to train. His eyes light up when he sees her, and she gives him that look like, don't you say anything. But as soon as they get out of the office, he goes, I lay claim to you. He's like, you're not claimed. And she says to him, you can't claim me. And she tells him, like, I'm not a part of a pack. He says that's not how it works. He gets ballsy. He's like, quoting pack law. And he's like, I lay claim to you and there's nothing you can do about it. And she's like, oh, but there is. She immediately knew she's going to have to take him out because he's not going to let it go. So, end of the day, end of shift, she goes, some kind of way he slipped past her and she can't find him. She's looked in town, nothing. She goes back home, no alarms have gone off, no alerts on her phone because everything's tied together. And she starts to smell them before she sees them, people coming up the driveway. And so she takes off through the back, she shifts into a wolf, and she takes off running. She had set a bunch of traps, so she hears a bunch of different ones getting caught up in them. But then she runs and sees a body that falls down from a tree. And at this point, she's like a couple miles outside of where she actually lived. And sure enough, it's the young one with his pack. She immediately takes out the young one. The human side of her doesn't like doing that, but it satisfies that wolf part of her. Not that she wants to take people out, it's just that he's a threat and she knows it. She knows he's a threat. So, because she's outnumbered, she winds up getting beat up real bad. And they, of course, making all the lewd jokes and, oh, we're going to have fun taking turns with your pussy, and there's nothing you can do about it. So she winds up passing out, hoping she doesn't wake up because she knows it's going to be an absolute nightmare when she does. So the wolves that were initially coming to get her, so coming through her front yard, these are the guys from her original pack that she grew up with. And she was promised to one of them. She did love him, but when she knew that he was going to follow the pack laws and let his homeboys fuck her, she left. But he still was coming. He's still been coming after her to get her. So now they see the dead bodies. They know based upon the tattoo what lichen pack that has probably um, taken her. Well, they know have taken her. And so they're going to go and destroy them because apparently these are outlaws. So they basically do everything. It's funny how they'll do the other stuff contrary to the law, but when they want to do stuff and do crap, they'll quote that pack law fast, you know? They're gonna go. It's his friend, it's Nathan, his friend John, who's his best friend, and he's gonna go ask politely. And if they don't give her back, then he's just gonna start a war and annihilate them all. Poor Dana, she wakes up, she's chained with silver, which, has a painful effect on werewolves, and it bruises, and she can feel her ribs have been broken, and a guy comes in, well, a werewolf comes in to try and kind of push her, trying to saying stuff like, that they're going to take it, and she's trying to push them too, because she's like, this is the only way you can get a woman. You got to force him. Like she's trying to get him riled up so he'll possibly fight her, and then she might have a fighting chance of like getting away from them. But it's not working. It's making the guy upset, but he's coming after her still. And then he said something to her about his master, and she goes, wait a minute. I thought you were the alpha. He says, I am. She says, well, what are you talking about, a master? And she's like, oh, if you have a master, then you're nothing but a lackey. And he gets upset and says, you don't speak of master. He hears commotion, he leaves. Um, and then someone rips the door off the hinges to where she is. She doesn't recognize the form at first, but when it transitions back to a human, it's Nathan. And Nathan is the guy that she was promised to. She was supposed to marry, but she didn't. And so before the alpha guy had come in there, her thought had been, you know, hell, it probably wouldn't have been that bad if I had stayed my ass back with the pack. Some women were treated really well and they liked how it worked. So not everyone was treated awful. That was just the thought that she gave us initially, but as she's sitting here thinking about, how it is right now, it's like stuff can get a whole lot worse. So we find out girl has been on the run for 12 years. And so he says to her, caught you. So as Nathan's taking her out, we find out that him and his men killed about 11 of them. The head guy and a couple others still got away, and they're tracking them now. Um, his two best friends are John, who we talked about before, and a younger guy named Cody. These are his best friends. And so what winds up happening is they all look at her and they feel the need to possess her. And Nathan sees it too. And he's not happy about this. So before everything went down, before she left, he would have wanted to share her with his best friends, but now he's not too crazy about the idea. And so before she originally took off, he had wanted to tell her, that basically he wouldn't make her, like he wasn't going to treat her the way he had seen other people treated, but she ran. And that's understandable, right? She didn't want to do it. I get it. So we find out he's not a pack. He had to fight his dad to get this position because his dad was awful. Um, his dad, a lot was stuck in the old ways, didn't want any forward movement, no growth. And so a lot of because of this, there are now a lot of lichen packs that are around that have left that pack, and so there's a bunch of rogue packs going around. It's causing alarms. So he, of course, winds up trying to make everything better now because he is, the alpha. And we know that John and Cody, they noticed her before seeing her now. Um, but it was always kind of like she was Nathan's woman, right? That's Nathan's mate, kind of left it like that. But seeing her today and seeing how broken she is, it has enraged them. And they want to now take out whoever's done this. Like, they want to claim her as their own as well. Um, they feel okay with sharing her. They feel that thing of that I think is crazy, but some people are okay with it. If I can have a piece of you, I'll take it. Right? Some people need the full thing or they don't want anything. And then some people, if I could just have a piece of you, then I'll accept that one piece of you. And that's where these guys are. Like, they have felt this umph when they saw her, and that's not going away anytime too soon. So Dana's been having the same dream on loop. It's a memory from way back before she left the pack. She was dormant for a very long time. Until she was probably like 18 or 19. She had never turned wolf. Her dad had tried all types of concoctions and things. Nothing worked. And because she hadn't turned wolf, she wasn't going to have to participate in the sharing. Because if she's dormant, we don't know if she's ever going to turn, right? So we don't know if she's going to be able to give us viable pups. So one day, her and Nathan have a nice hard fuck. And afterwards, she begins to shapeshift. And it's really painful for her. And afterwards, she's in full form. They're running together. They're super happy. The next morning, her father didn't even make her get up early to go do chores. He was so ecstatic. Like, he'd done all kind of stuff to try and get her to turn, all kind of concoctions. Nothing worked. He was very cruel to her as well. He would physically hurt her. And now he was just happy, right? So she gets a knock on the window. It's Nathan. He's got a bruised face. His father physically hurts him as well. And she, of course, is like, what happened? And he says, I got into it with my father. The father told him he is going to have to share her. But he doesn't have to do it until she has her first pup. So once she has that first pup, then he's going to have to share her. She's freaking out because she's like, you promised me. You told me I wouldn't have to do that. You promised me. And he starts quoting that pack law. And that is what made her run 12 years ago. So as she's coming to, John's there. John's a doctor. He's checking her vitals. She remembers John. She just didn't remember his name. That shocked him because he didn't even know she knew him, because he's like, all you and Nathan ever did was sneak off and go neck each other, So he was shocked she even remembered him. But she just remembered him as John's best friend. And Nathan comes in and he's like, you ran away. Like, I'm claiming you. It's not happening again, right? Like, we're getting married. He's just laying down law. I guess pack law or something. And he's like, I'm not sharing you. I don't care what anyone says. And so John says, I don't know if, the pack is gonna like be okay with that, And he's like, I don't care. That's how I lost her all those years ago, and it's not happening again. Well, now her mind's doing the whole, you're not gonna tell me what to do, right? So she starts picking different ones, saying that she's gonna mate with them. John, Cody, and some other guy. And he's just like, what? And she says, that's what's happening. I need more rest. And she turns her back and she goes to sleep. And she's thinking, like, what the hell have I done, But she has no intention of going through with anything. She plans on running. Um, so she's just trying to figure out a plan. Nathan, of course, is pissed off. So when he leaves out of the room, he's telling the guys, like, point blank, it's not happening. I'm not sharing her. And he looks at John, and John's like, well, unless she tells me the engagement's off, I'm not backing down. Cody says the same thing. Now, the Jeffrey guy, he is in love with some woman. I think she's possibly human in town. So he recused himself so fast, because he's like, I'm cool. And John and Nathan wind up getting in a fight. And while they're fighting, she tries to escape, and Cody catches her. They share this quick little kiss. She liked it a hell of a lot more than she wanted to admit. And so Nathan's telling her, like, straightforward, it's going to be me and you. You're not going to be whored out. You're not going to be with anybody else and all this type of stuff. And she talks about, basically what she saw, because John's looking kind of confused because he's like, well, why do you think that way? Like, that's not how I grew up. Like, it's a very loving relationship. Like, my mother was loved by my fathers. You know, they would do anything in the world for her. Like, I never saw anything bad. I never thought I was going to do it. I thought it would just be me with one person, but I never saw a bad representation of it in his home. In other words, while he grew up. And he explains to her, sharing means having someone that's going to take care of you. He's like, I mean, we saw how you were living, and that looked like a prison. There was no homely touches to it. You were, had traps set out. Like, that didn't seem like a way of living. And she's thinking she was free, which she was, but she wasn't, right? Because if you're always looking over your shoulder and if you're always worried, that's not true freedom. And so he was kind of explaining to her, like, having men that love you and protect you and, allow you to be who you are is true freedom, real protection from the outside world, not really having worries like that. And she's thinking, like, that some way she hadn't really, it wasn't her reality. So she never thought of it like that, of it that way. Even though she had seen women that did enjoy it, but she probably just thought, oh, they're just freaks, And that's why they like it. Now she's wondering if this is something she should give a try. So John and Nathan wind up talking because Nathan's worried that, he is head over heels in love with Dana, and he can see that Dana wants John and she wants Cody as well. He's seeing this, and this is making him paranoid because it makes him feel like, what if she just wants them and then she's not going to want me, right? So he's feeling rejected, and John is like, listen, I'm not backing down, but at the same time, if you're the one that she wants to claim first, then I'll let that be, But if she comes to me, I'm not turning her away. You just got to be okay with that and understand that that's how it's going to be on my end, And Nathan couldn't say too much to that, you got to think Nathan's loved her longer, but that intensity of wanting to claim, he kind of gets it because he's felt it for so long, and they're just now starting to feel it. So, hey. Nathan does explain to John why her, thought process of it. He really goes into more detail of why she feels the way she feels about these types of relationships, and it's because of how her mother was treated. So she was the only child that survived. Dana was, and her mother had like a ton of miscarriages, and her dad is actually the one that killed her mother, but Dana doesn't even know that. She just thinks that it was a miscarriage that took her out. And apparently the father would just, if people were coming over, he would just have random people just fuck her. So John is, of course, appalled by this behavior. He's like, no, like, it's an actual bond that you're supposed to be having. It's not supposed to be random people. Like, what in the hell? And so it makes more sense to him as to why she is so like, I ain't doing that, even though we know she's thinking about maybe I should try this. On a side note, we also find out that Cody's very hung and they're both a little terrified of that. So Dana takes a nap. When she wakes up, Cody comes in the room. She kicks him in the groin because he scared her, and she felt bad doing it because he startled her. She tried to run out of the room, but then she ran straight into Nathan. And clearly she sees she's just not going to be able to walk out of this place. So her and Nathan are having a conversation. She finds out that her father is dead. He's been gone for 12 years. Apparently 3 years no, I'm sorry. She's been gone for 12 years. He died 3 years after she left. So he succumbed to liver disease. He was a heavy drinker. She had no sorrow. She was actually happy. And he was kind of looking at her, and he's like, I know he was really strict, but, it's okay to have some type of remorse. And she says, why would I? He wasn't just strict. He used to beat me. And Nathan's like, I never saw any bruises. And she said, you weren't going to, because he knew not to let me be marked. He knew not to put it in places where people would know. And so that, of course, made Nathan so furious. And he was like, well, I guess it's a good thing I didn't find out, because I would have killed him. So her thing is, she kind of wants to taste the menu before fully committing to this. So she's thinking about having an idea of all of them on her. And she found out that the Jeff guy, who was like the fourth, that he's engaged to someone and he bowed out. So she's making a joke. And she says, well, I guess we need to find another one to make the family complete. And Nathan, of course, growls and looks at her like she's crazy. He already doesn't want to share her at all. At the same time, we're getting, this is what I like really with the writing, we're getting the views from all the different characters. So we're getting from John's point of view. We're also hearing from Cody's point of view, where he's like, he heard about that feeling of that instant attraction, that pull to someone. He's the youngest. And he had never felt that until her. Like, he's done humans with threesomes. He's done threesomes with humans. I said that so backwards. But ever since he has laid his eyes on Dana, he hasn't done anything with anybody else. Like, he doesn't even pay attention to other women. And women throw themselves at Cody. And so he gets it. And so he's just kind of like, if she'll have me, I'll just wait until I can get her, So we find out that he's a really great cook. He really dove into learning about it after she left, and now he's a master at it. She's shocked. She realizes, there's a lot of things about each other that they don't know. It's been a really long time, and even before, they didn't know everything about each other. They're at the table. John and Nathan are on each side of her. Cody's in front of her, but that's where he wanted to be. He's making these sexual comments. He winds up putting his foot between her legs. And they can smell when she's turned on. That's the thing she hates about being a wolf, is that she can't hide her arousal. They smell it. They know it. And she's so turned on by all of them. Cody puts his foot between her legs on her mouth. She has pants on or whatever. But he could feel how wet she was. So she had to excuse herself really quickly from the table. And all he did was smile. So Dana goes to the bathroom. She closes the door, and we find out she was getting touches from both John and Nathan as well. And then the trifecta happened when Cody put his foot between her legs. She just couldn't take it anymore. She hates the fact that she's now so aroused. She's got to go in this bathroom, and she's trying to rub one out. She winds up getting interrupted by Nathan. they know what she's in there doing. So she kind of thought he was going to break down the door, and she kind of wanted him to do it. So it was crazy. So she comes out. The desserts are on the table. Cody's the baker. They're amazing. She is so turned on. He tells her he likes watching her eat, and he says it just makes me want to eat your cream. And so then Nathan lunges at him. So now they're fighting, and John walks her to her room, which is actually Nathan's room. And she thought it was hot, them fighting, right? When John takes her upstairs, she winds up giving him a kiss goodnight. She goes to sleep. So what she thinks is a dream is not. Nathan's eating her pussy. And it feels so good, but she tells him to stop. He stops, and he, of course, is like, why are you stopping me? She's like, why couldn't you just wait till I was awake? Because you knew that I would have said no. He's like, but I love you. And she said, that's the problem. You keep telling me what you feel, what you want, and it's not about that. I want the choice to decide what I want. And he goes, and you want John, right? And he has this nasty tone when he says it. And she says, if John's who I want, then John's who I want. And if I want Cody, and if I want someone else, and if I want all of you, that's my choice to make, and I want to be able to make it. And he tells her sorry, tells her again how much he loves her. She's in his bed. He's gonna go to sleep, and she's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to bed. She's like, oh no. So she gets out, takes a pillow, and she's gonna sleep on the floor. And he's like, oh my gosh, you stubborn woman. And so he picks her up, puts her back in his bed, and he's like, I'll find somewhere else to sleep. And kisses her fast. Well, actually, no. She had said, okay, give me a kiss goodnight. And he did it really quickly because he was scared she was going to change her mind. She knows she wants all of them. There's no way she can only have one of them. Basically, all of them make the perfect man, right? She gets the sensitivity with not all the baggage from John. She gets the fun, playful side with Cody. And then she has the history and the fire with Nathan. So she wants them all. It's the next morning, and we find out that John heard the conversation between Nathan and Dana. They do have wolf hearing, so he can hear pretty much damn near anything. He was happy to know that she didn't fully let him claim her, and that she's still wrestling with the idea of what she truly wants. And he also wants it to be known that he does want her, but he's just not going to force her. So when he went upstairs, they kind of have this conversation, and she's kind of like, she's like, is there something between us? I wonder because you don't, do anything, kind of. And he says, well, I'm not going to force you. He's like, I want you, but I'm not going to force myself on you. And this, of course, made her happy. And she winds up giving him a great kiss. And so then Nathan's going to take her on the tour of the compound. She wants John to come along. He's been doing a lot of updates since she's been gone. He's the alpha. We found out his father had depleted a lot of the funds, but thankfully for some investments that his grandfather had done, they were yielding pretty good, and so financially he didn't have to work, and he found ways to add to the pot. So there's so many rogue-like impacts out now that there's huge demand for people to go out and capture them, and so he's done that a lot, and that's brought in a lot of money. There's also truckers that they can be. Some leave for weeks, and that gives women a break. So he's trying to do things. He's trying to find a way to help. There's apparently a very low birth rate. I guess what starts to happen, or has happened, is kind of inbreeding was going on. So there were a bunch of birth defects that these babies were being born with, so they wound up having to go out and get mating with other packs, so that would stop. Cody's gone into town to get the different things she needs. John and Nathan wound up having a conversation. John tells him again, listen, you can claim her first. I'll let you do that, but You're gonna have to figure out a way to make, to make yourself okay with it, because I want her and I'm not gonna back down. So Nathan's coming around to the idea that he is gonna have to share her, and he's almost kind of starting to feel like the guys, where if that's the way that I can keep her, then that's the way I'm willing to do it. They go on a tour of the grounds, and he's made a lot of improvements. There's solar panels. She's finding out different things about all the integrating with the other packs and things like that. And a woman comes up named Miranda, and she's all seductive acting, and she's like, Nathan, John, I need your help. And Dana immediately feels possessive, and she's kind of like, the feeling comes over her of, how dare you ask my men to help you. So the woman says that, her husbands are out of town, and Dana's like, well, then you need to find somebody else. And so Miranda's like, are you going to let her talk to me like that, Nathan? And Nathan's like, well, you need to call your men home if you have things that you need done. It's not okay for you to go around asking other people's men to do things, because cheating, we don't tolerate that here. And Miranda and Dana wound up fighting. It was a very short fight, because Dana took her down so fast. And it was that was a funny thing to read. And Nathan just kind of told her, like, that's my future wife, so what she says, that's how it is. And right then we already knew she'd already made up her mind anyway. These were her men. The decision is she wants them all. She wants all three of them. They're going to be hers. John heads back to the house, and then Nathan and Dana run off. They, shape shift and run off, and they're about to, well, shall we say, they're about to basically mate, like claim each other. He starts eating her pussy, and right when he's about to fuck her, he hears like a stirring in the bushes, and it's the Jeffrey guy, and apparently counsel wants to see him. It's an emergency, so he's like, damn it, he can't seal the deal now. So he leaves, he heads back. She goes back to the house, and again, they're just like, what, just gonna have to finish this later. So when she comes out of the shower, Cody is sitting on her bed. He's brought all her stuff, and he's even got even more stuff for her than what she had asked for. He's bought some dresses and things like that. She hasn't worn a dress in like over 12 years. So he's doing his flirty talk, and later on she comes downstairs. She has on the dress. They're all in awe. And she asks, well, what did the council want? And they basically want to know, like, if someone had claimed her. And it was something else they want to know. And it's probably important, but I don't remember. And I didn't write it down. Woe is me. And then the conversation starts to get spicy between between her and Nathan. So she had been under the impression, because of how Nathan speaks of how, I love you so much, and I was just so devastated, She thought that meant he hadn't fucked anybody. Well, that's not the truth. And it comes out that he's fucked quite a few people. And she is pissed. She knows it's irrational, but she just didn't expect for him to do that, and it hurt her. And he's like, well, it's not like you didn't go that long and not fuck anybody, but the truth was she did. She never did fuck anybody. But then again, I'm like, but you left, right? You did run away. So, I mean, it just seems very selfish of her to feel like somebody's supposed to wait for you when you made it seem as if you weren't coming back. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. However, he was a dick about it because he saw she was getting upset, And he didn't back down from it. He more so was like, why wouldn't I? Like, he had this attitude. And it just further infuriated her. So she winds up running upstairs crying. And John is going to go talk to her. But I'm just kind of like, if you're the one that makes her cry, you need to be the one to fucking go up there and talk to her. Like, you shouldn't be so, I am alpha, that you can't fucking talk to the girl when you see. I mean, you could have had a conversation. But he sent John up there. So Dana's up there crying, and at the same time, she's like, you know what? Fuck it. Since he wants to do that, he is no longer going to be the first one that I mark. It's going to be John. She feels like Nathan needs to be taught a lesson, and this is how she's going to do it. Now I'm like, uh-oh. This is going to be dangerous. So Cody's downstairs telling Nathan, like, you are so stupid. Like, could you not see that the girl was upset? And you just kept trying to make her feel like it was her fault, that she left. Like, why did you do that? Like, why not say, like, yes, I did it. I did mess with other people, but I didn't find happiness with them. Being with them let me know that you were the only one that I ever would want. Say something, But he would not do it. He was so stuck on that one thing of, it's not my fault, you're the one that left. And he was not going to deviate from it. And like I said, to an extent, he's not wrong, because she is the one that left. You can't leave and then sit up there and go, but you were supposed to stay true to me. No. That's not how that works. Then you don't play fucking games. So I'm not on her side. At the same time, if you see something's upsetting someone, you don't sit there and try and drive the point to try and keep hurting them because you're trying to not feel any form of guilt that you're starting to feel. You know what I'm saying? Before John went upstairs, he did say to Nathan, like, sometimes your alpha is like a curse. He's like, because you genuinely do not know how to stop. So then John goes upstairs, and he's going to try and make it right. Dana's pissed. And back downstairs, Nathan and Cody are talking. And Nathan's like, it's not like you guys are upset. Like, this throws me out of the running. You all wanted her for yourselves anyway. So I don't even know what you guys are acting like you're upset for. And they're just kind of like, they never wanted to, like, strip her away from him. So it's like, again, he knows he kind of effed up. And when I say effed up, more so in how he handled it, And now he's trying to blame it or put it on someone else. And so John goes upstairs, and she's crying. And he's consoling her, and then she starts to kiss him. And he tells her, like, I'm not going to be a part of, your punishment to Nathan. If you do this has got to be something that you want. And she told him, I want to do this. She's like, I'm falling in love with you. And that's all it took. John went at it. They had a nice hard fuck. They bit each other, because I guess, and they draw blood, and that's the bond. That means they're now mated. He said something to her, like, really sweet. It was like, he's like, from here on out, you never walk alone. I'll always be here. And that made her feel like, you know what? He was the right choice to be the first one. The next morning, her and John are all playful and everything. John winds up getting dressed. He leaves to go. He's going to go look for Nathan to talk to him first. She goes, takes a shower, and when she comes out, our boy Nathan is laying on John's bed. She can smell the beer on him. He is furious. He cannot believe that she did that with John. He actually heard them when they were doing the marking of each other, and he gets ruthless with her. And he winds up grabbing her and biting her, which in esoteric terms is considered RAPE because he forced his mark on her. And technically, she's already marked. So honestly, in their law, pack law, he's supposed to be executed for that. So John and Cody come in. They rip her away from him. John beats him up. They're ready to throw him to the wolves, take him to council, have them make the judgment. But Dana's like, no, don't do it. It's not his, it's not his fault. I should have handled it better, and that would have never happened. He was supposed to be the first one. I told him he was. This is partially my fault. And so they're not going to tell counsel. Nathan goes to sleep, and when he wakes up, he starts having memories of what happened, and he thought it was a nightmare, but it was real. And so when he realizes that, he is absolutely terrified of what he did to her. She's telling him it's okay. I forgive you, X, Y, and Z. And he's like, I should have just come and talked to you. I shouldn't have sent John to do it. All the regrets are coming out. But we know because he's thinking in his mind, he's going to leave. He doesn't feel like he can stay after what he's done. He's going to have a meeting with the council. He's going to go and finish something to make sure that she will feel safe and that she will have her happily ever after without him. John and Cody take her to the movies for a distraction. And while they're at the movies, her and Cody, they're flirting super hard. She's ready to mark him now. John can tell, and he's fine with it. So he's like, let's get out of here. So they get in the car, and John tells her to get in the back with Cody. And she's like, why? I rode in the front with you. He says, we both know that you want to claim each other now. So let's just get it over with, He's like, we should have it done before we get back to the house. So he tells her, I'll find a place where we can, you can be alone and you can claim each other. So he finds this back road. Sure enough, she starts getting fucked by Cody. John whips his dick out. He's jacking off, and then he winds up putting his dick in her mouth, and she's sucking him off. Just a very erotic scene to read. So John comes in her mouth, Cody comes in her pussy. And she had an explosive orgasm. And now she's thinking like, oh my gosh, now if we can just get Nathan on board to have all three of them would be a dream. So they get back to the house, and the minute they know something's off when they get there, because the lights are off and the house is dark. They're thinking maybe he's outside chopping wood or he's resting. But the minute Dana walked into that house, she knew he was gone. And sure enough, he left a note, and it basically just saying, how sorry he was for what happened. He couldn't live with himself with what he did to her. He's going to do the next best thing, which is take out the rogues that are still alive that tried to kill her. And that way she can be safe and she can have a life. And she breaks out crying. She's like, we got to go after him. We got to get him. And they're like, that's done. We'll do it, It wasn't even a question. They were going for him. But she's like, I'm going too. And they're like, no. And she says, either you let me go or neither one of you will get to, have sex with me again. That got their attention, and they were like, fine, you're coming. So then we switch to Nathan. He's waiting actually at the same place where he took her virginity the first time all those years ago. And he's supposed to meet up with these rogues. He's the only one, doesn't know how many of them it's going to be. Sure enough, they come out. He starts fighting them. He's ripping them, ripping flesh. And then he hears a familiar voice. It's his father. So his father is not dead, but he looks weird. And we find out why. His father is now a vampire. So apparently the council has known always about vampires, and mistakenly one of them was killed. And so the head vampire woman, can't remember the name they said, she was the one that had been stealing the different males. She had been doing that all these years. Um, and they turned him into her, and eventually she turned him into a vampire. Because apparently it didn't happen like right off the bat, but eventually she was able to turn him. So the father is upset because he's like, he's been sending people, you know, all these different rogue troops are like a part of him. Not all of them, okay, but a good chunk of them are from him. And Nathan and his guys, like, they've been taking him down. So he's like, you're screwing with my plan, you know? So we find out the vampire woman that he killed her because apparently she tried to treat him like a pet. And he's like, I am no one's pet. And that's when Dana runs up and she screams, no! So Dana had a gun, a weapon with like with the bullets that are silver bullets. So she shot Roderick, which is Nathan's dad, in the head. And he stopped moving. And then it's like all of a sudden stuff start moving fast because like the guys come up, the other wolves and stuff like that. And then Roderick's body's gone, so is the rest of his men. And she's kind of like, Nathan's like, I need to find them. And she's like, they're gone, we shouldn't worry about them. And he's like, nah, we need to find them. But they go searching high and low, but they never find them. And so they come back to the house and they have this whole orgy fuck session. And John's like, I want your pussy. Nathan's like, I want your ass. Cody's like, he'll take whatever he can get. So they had the whole orgy. Nathan in her ass, John in her pussy, Cody in her mouth. And then John and Cody switched. And afterwards, when she came, girl just had stars in her eyes after that debacle. And she really does love all three of them. So we get an epilogue. A few months have passed, and they have dismantled the council. They've got a new group of people that they're going to put in those positions. And we find out Nathan's giving more rights to women with their choices. She gave him a great blowjob the day he did that. And we also find out that now she's pregnant, and she knows that they're going to be even more protective of her once they find out. And that's how it ends. I like this book. It was so different from anything I've ever read. I've never done anything with like shapeshifter, that type of thing. And it really just kind of made me think about, yes, Twilight. That was a great series to read. And I thought it was a good movie series as well. But it really made me think about that. You just add a little hardcore sex scenes in there. So the whole thing with the father being a vampire, that's not far-fetched when we're already dealing with wolves. You know what I mean? So it's like we're dealing with werewolves. Vampires should be right around the corner. But I thought it was good. I'm not going to do the full series just because I thought if it was going to be like a continuation of their story, then yes. But it winds up being different people's stories for each book. And so I don't really want to do that. But it's a good starter. So if you do like the series, then you all can definitely dive into the other books and read into them. If you have any other suggestions with things like this, please let me know. Drop down in the comment section. I'm always looking for new ideas. I'm trying to figure out what type of series I'm going to jump into next. So feel free to give me as many ideas as you would like. Make sure you like and subscribe. And as always, I truly do thank you all for your support. And thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club. And make sure you put your comments down in the description section. And also, if you're in the market for a beautiful journal or notebook, I do have a couple of those on sale. And those links are going to be available down below in the description section.